Hey, everybody, welcome to the Elite Minds podcast. This is episode 3, and I'm so excited to have Dallas Amsden here. I say it right?
You did?
I did. Dallas is a dad of 3 boys and has a couple fun stories we're going to touch on. And obviously, we're just going to talk about what it's like raising 3 boys because I have 2 and I don't even know. You don't even have a daughter to balance it.
I don't have a daughter. My wife always kind of wanted one, Suzi, but it didn't happen. We even had the girl name picked out when number 3 was coming along. We were ready.
Oh man, what was her name?
So with the boys, all of them are AJ. So we've got Alexander Joseph, we've got Arthur James, and then we were ready. We were like, what do we got? And so we were going to go with Amelia.
Oh, lovely.
But Alexander, he's Lex, so he doesn't even go by AJ. He just goes by Lex.
Is fun.
Yeah, Lex and Arthur and Arrow is the third boy.
So what I want to know then, knowing boys,
Yeah.
do the older boys know that you were hoping for a girl and had a girl name, and do they tease him and call him the girl name?
They don't. They all know the girl name, and now they're all pushing to get a dog or a pet, and my wife is like, we're getting a girl dog if we get a dog. And they're like, well, then maybe we can call her Amelia. I'm like, I don't think that's gonna work that way.
You're like, so I wanted a daughter, but here we are.
Yeah, there she is.
It's a
pug. Oh, not a pug. It couldn't be a pug.
No, my poor husband, all that's left in the house, we have 5 kids. So our oldest, 28, is a girl. She has a girl, so we have a granddaughter. Our grandson will be born in July, unless the ultrasound lies.
Not usually in that direction.
I know, right? And there's 2 boys in the middle. And so the 3 kids are out of the house, the adults. So now in the house, all that's left are twin girls. They're 11.
Oh, yeah.
Me and our girl dog. So my husband has opposite of you.
So it's just been a total estrogen swell on him the last few years.
Yeah. Yes. And the girls are going to be 12 soon. And, it's just, I'm like, it's funny. I love how, so you wrote one of your things. You're like, hey, I have one of 2 things. I'm like, we're going to talk about both of them.
Yeah. I didn't know what all to fill out. So I gave you a bunch of options for discussion.
Love it. So I love more than anything that you said, when your son got to a certain point, the behaviors and stuff, all things were new. However, it was, I don't want to say misbehavior, but however you classified it.
At 12, once he hit puberty, it was like the game shifted on us. And I don't know who this kid is right now. Like, I don't know what I was there, but it was 30 years ago. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I like your reframe on it. How you're like, hey, wait, he's never been here. And I've never parented here, right?
Yeah.
And even if you could remember, well, hell, for me, even if I look at it, so the twins are almost 12, my granddaughter's 2. Sometimes at 2, I'll look at it and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's, that 10-year gap, it's huge with children. Yeah. So even if you had remembered, you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So there was a point, Suzi, where I was fluent in toddler. But if you asked me to speak toddler again now, I'd be a little rusty. I'd be like, I don't know what you're saying, little guy. So I think you're right. You retire certain skills. I mean, my wife and I laughed when we finally said, hey, we are done wiping butts. Like, we're out of that phase of life. Yeah. And I'm sure once we have grandkids down the line someday, I'm sure that we will have to re-experience that. But for now, I've got like a 10-year stretch. I don't got to think about it.
I know, right? It's incredible how just the gizmos change.
Yeah.
Where you're like, this isn't parenting. This is not fair.
No, this is not fair. I have friends who have video monitors with like motion sensors and the pad, the baby pad, making sure the baby's breathing. And I'm like, that is not the way the game worked.
You're like, no, I had to sit at the door after I cried for an hour. And then you're like, is it breathing?
Yeah.
It like, it's not a human.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's totally different.
Right. But you remember that turmoil where you're like, I really want to see if they're breathing, but God, I'm not going to wake them up. And you're like,
absolutely.
Sitting at the door, you're like, what do I do? What do I do?
I'll never forget the first night our firstborn, Lex, the first night he slept for 7 hours because somebody had told us about the miracle blanket. They're like, you got to get this thing. And it's
Okay.
basically a straight jacket for a
Mm,
newborn because the thing that wakes them is not just fussiness. It's actually they jolt, like their
yeah.
muscles jolt. And we didn't know that. So the miracle blanket, had him totally straight jacketed, and he slept for 7 hours that first night. And my wife and I, we opened our eyes, we looked at each other and went, go check, make sure. We didn't hear anything through the monitor, nothing. Go. But we got over that quickly. Finally, we were like, no, get the miracle blanket for all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah. I totally get you on that. And you think that you'd change it up. So how were you with the second and third? Same?
I, we had the, I guess, accidental blessing that the first one was an emergency C-section. And at the time we lived in California, and California did not allow you. I think there was one hospital in all of LA County that allowed you to do a VBAC,
What's
vaginal birth after a C.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, sorry. Here I am talking in
All
speak.
five, and I don't even
Susie,
know.
why am I teaching you this stuff? No, I'm just kidding.
We're gonna scratch that. No, just kidding.
We can do whatever. So, so our second had to be a planned C-section,
Okay.
and both boys ended up having some minor health issues when they were first born, so they went down to the NICU. Well, the nurses put them on a schedule.
Mm,
When they were down there for 7 days, by the time we got them, I actually said to Meg, I understand having a night nanny because they were already on a feeding schedule. They were on pretty much a sleeping schedule. So by the time we got them home, it was kind of like, he's good for 4 hours. Okay, we're good. Let's sleep now. So we we kind of had a little bit of a blessing in disguise with that. What I think, to your point though, to your question, every 6 to 8 weeks, something shifted as
okay.
they were growing, in that first year or so. So you would get into a pattern, then about almost like clockwork, every 6 to 8 weeks, something would happen where all of a sudden it was off just a little bit and we'd have to readjust. Thankfully, my wife and I are both, I don't, I remember in the episode where you talked with Krista Lane, she talked about some of her OCD
Mm.
tendencies. We both have some of those. I am definitely the guy who walks around making sure, like a three-way switch, that the ones on the two plate are both face down. If that one, I'm definitely that guy who walks around and
Wow. Okay.
does that kind of stuff around our house. So it worked really well for us to be regimented with the schedule with
Okay.
the boys as they were nursing and as they were going through. But each one of them was different, and that's, I think, you asked a good question there. They I have learned as a dad, as they've gotten older, that the same techniques don't apply.
Oh
The
my God.
principles of parenting, right? The
Yeah.
principles of parenting apply, but the techniques and strategies have to shift because I've got three very different personalities.
That's exactly right. And not a lot of people get that. My husband, Sean, the three older are previous. So
Mm,
he came into it, they were 8, 10, and 13. And he'd watch me parent. And he's like, "Ah," and I'm like, "Oh no, no. You have to parent the child. Like
right,
you can't parent the same."
right.
He's like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "They're so different." Like Ryan, my oldest son, who's in the Navy, I could spank him, ground him, take his door, take his furniture, take everything. And he's like, "I don't care. Drywall's fun." You
Oh,
even
yeah.
look sideways at Kobe or Mercedes and they'll cry.
Yeah.
Like,
And we one of our 6-year-old, for being 6, he has a very high emotional intelligence.
okay.
Where when he's getting upset, he'll look at us and he'll go, "Mom, I just need to go sit and reset." And
Nice.
he'll walk away, close the door, and 7 to 10 minutes later, he comes out and he's fine because he's
Did
like
you teach
emotionally.
him that? Or did
We
he see you
we
guys
would say
already
to
doing
him, we weren't timeout parents.
Yeah.
We don't need to discuss all the disciplinary techniques because I'm not a parent guidance counselor. But we we were subtle enough. With him, we would say to him, "Buddy," I think by his point, because the second child, Arthur, he's much more emotional.
Okay.
He's much more heart driven. He is
Mhm.
much more in the moment, and when something goes wrong, it's never going to be great again until it's finally fine.
Yeah.
Um, And I think with him, we heard this term in working honestly with our own personal therapist, my wife and I, we heard this term, they're dysregulated.
Okay.
And so in the dysregulation, we had to figure out with Arthur what will get him regulated again. And we found with him, it was usually let's sit and let's put on a piece of music because music sways his heart, it sways his emotions. So we would
Right.
put on music for him until he regulated again. Well, by the time Arrow came around 4 years later,
Yeah.
we were pros in the regulation game. It felt like anyway. And so with him, we were able to say, buddy, how are you feeling? Talk to me. You seem really angry. I am angry. I'm upset, Dad. It's like, okay, what do you need to do to reset?
Okay.
That's what we started to ask him
Yeah.
early on. But at 4 and 5, he's 6 now. At 4 and 5, he learned that language enough that he was like, I just need to go reset, and he'd disappear. Now
I
the 13-year-old internalizes everything. You're like, talk to me. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? It's like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm
And
fine.
it's only gotten worse with puberty. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah. I love that so much. So when I read about your earlier struggles that you were going through where you just felt like you weren't winning and you were I want you to elaborate on that. When you say you were losing at life or however, was that in all aspects? And were you depressed, do you think? Like, and then definitely tell us about the point system.
So how much time do we got for this part? No, I'm just kidding.
We got whatever you have.
No, I'm good. So when we lived in LA, I had been doing some acting. My wife and I were both involved in the entertainment industry in a
Okay.
capacity. She was an exec assist for a writer producer out there. I started more on the performance side of things. So I'd gotten my degree in theater. I'm a musical theater major.
Oh, fun.
There's a random fact about me.
No,
I'm,
the
I'm
random fact is you're a professional mime.
well, okay, I'm a retired professional mime, and for those of you who are listening to the audio version, you can't see what I'm doing right now. You're gonna have to
I
watch it
I
online.
laughed so hard when I read that. I said, "You know what?" I went out and I told my husband, I said, "I bet his boys are mad."
They, yeah, no, it was a weird thing because when I was younger, I saw a pro mime and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to I want to learn how to do that." And I got this guy's videos and I basically I mimicked everything I could do.
Mhm.
Well, then he started having a school every summer, like a summer camp for
Okay,
for mime. Uh and so I went from the time I was 12 to the time I was 16. I went every summer for a few weeks.
that's amazing.
Then I got to the point where I was asked to tour around the country with him. We went to Israel together. I performed mime
Oh,
in China, India, Costa Rica,
that is
some
amazing.
church related events.
Mhm.
But I went with him to Israel to do mime in Jerusalem at David's Citadel for a big Jerusalem celebration thing. So just
That's
weird,
awesome.
right? But finally, when I went off to college, I was like, "That's it. I'm retiring as a mime." I
Okay.
hung up my gloves. I hung up my stripes. Uh, so it's weird to be able to tell people, "Yeah, I was a professional mime."
I
If I
love
had been over 6 foot, I would have tried to become a professional wrestler, though. That was
Oh,
always
okay. I didn't know 6 foot was a thing.
well, Vince doesn't like I'm not quite 6 foot, and he doesn't like guys under 6'1", 6'2". So, yeah, I wouldn't have gone very far in that industry,
Oh,
um,
that's okay.
and I probably wouldn't have met my wife either. So we're
That's
good.
see, perfect.
All is good. All is fine. And I definitely wouldn't have these three cool kids.
Yeah.
But
Oh gosh, I know.
when we lived in LA, I was doing the acting thing, and I was also writing, and I had a script that was being shopped around, and I got to the point though I was working my day job. At the time, I was an apartment manager because it allowed for me to go on auditions as necessary. But um, all the things I had expected, and I'm forgetting who you talked with about this at one point. It might have been honestly, it might have been the conversation with Krista, the idea of like in our 20s and our 30s, we're kind of figuring it out. We're doing things.
Yeah.
I thought I knew my trajectory at
Okay.
20, 25, 30, 30 years old, 35 years old. It was like, I'm not on that trajectory. What am I on this earth to do? So a lot of things started happening. Obviously, I started losing my hair during that period too, which is kind of strange to say, but it affected my castability
Really?
because
Okay.
all of a sudden I was being considered for different roles.
Hmm. That
And
makes sense.
it messed with my internal identity because I was like, I thought I was going down this path
Uh,
forever. And now all of a sudden
yeah.
everybody sees me as something different. I'm not quite the same. I've started to gain a little weight. Like all this stuff started coming in to play. And during that same time, I realized I didn't want to be an actor anymore either because I was being told where to sit, told where to stand, told how to say what to say, and I felt like a talking prop. Because a lot of people don't know this, but in Hollywood, the majority of working actors are doing commercial work,
Oh,
and
okay.
they're talking props. You
Yeah.
know, like this set of Bluetooth headphones. The commercial's all about these headphones. It's not about me. You
Right.
know, and so I got to the point where I was like, it's not very fulfilling. I'm saying other people's lines. I took a stand-up comedy class and I found like my magic and I started doing stand-up.
Okay.
Um, but balancing the schism between where I thought, is that the right word there?
I like the word.
All right. Balancing this gap, let's go with that,
Yeah.
between where I thought I was headed versus where I was very disruptive for me mentally and emotionally.
Okay.
And I also, because I was an apartment manager, I was on call all the time.
Mm.
I had my mobile phone and I had an emergency phone. And no matter where I was, that emergency phone had to be answerable. Um, and it'd be different if I was a surgeon, you know, getting paid hundreds of thousands to be on call. This was like, hey, there's a leak. Like I put crap down my toilet I shouldn't have, sort of
Oh,
stuff. So
yeah.
it started to wear on me. My resilience got lower. Um, and there was just a series of perfect events, that this perfect storm, that I started to sleep more. I started to get less mobile. I started to not want to go out and do comedy sets. I started to get more frustrated. Frankly, I started to sedate and drink more.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
there was just all these things in place, and there was finally a point my wife looked at me and said, "Do you think you're depressed?" And I just shrugged it off, and I said, "No, you know, I'm there's nothing more stereotypical than a striving comic who's depressed in Los Angeles. That's shut up. Get out of here."
Who's now going bald.
Right. Oh, I was that ship had set sail. Yeah, the bald cure, or the bald cruise was already in the somewhere in the Mediterranean at that
Oh my
point.
gosh.
Um, but but when she first asked me that, I knew the answer, but I denied it because
Sure.
it seemed too cliche, and it didn't seem like a guy who should have been on my trajectory would have dealt with that. So it
Yeah.
just didn't. It felt inharmonious.
Did you have kids yet?
We had just had our first one,
Okay.
so Lex had come along, and my habits were becoming more destructive. And my days off, I had him because my wife is working full time, so
Mhm.
there was never a day off.
For you.
I would work from 9 to 6, head
Mhm.
out the door, go and do a comedy set or 2, like try and do a pickup show or a lineup show, and, get home at 11 or midnight, maybe have a kid wake up a couple times and or an emergency in the building, and it was just like this storm of energy, and,
Yeah.
um, so I was very fatigued, I was very frustrated at where I was in life, I also lived under the shadow of coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Mm.
So the
Okay.
amount of regret, boy, did I make the wrong choices? Did I choose all the wrong paths? If every choice I ever made has led me to this, then can I ever trust another choice again?
Wow, that's deep. I see the coulda, woulda, shoulda, but yeah, I never thought about that heaviness of it being like that, of not trusting yourself and your judgment for future.
Yeah, it was paralyzing would
Yeah.
probably be the word I would use. And so it kept me from making any further choices other than sedate, numb, check out, sleep.
Okay.
And then the panic attacks started in. So
Wow.
so
Somebody's, like, raining on your parade.
yeah, well, I honestly I got to the point where I would be sitting in my office at the building, and answering phones, and then all of a sudden I thought at 32 I'm having a heart attack.
Okay.
Just massive pumping, shortness of breath, all those things, and they got to the point where they were debilitating, where there were several times I would call the main corporate office and say, "Hey, I have to stop working, I'm sick." And I would go lay down and I'd sleep for 4 hours
Okay.
from the panic attacks. I didn't know how to roll. with them.
Yeah.
Um, and in that there was suicidal ideations at that
Mm.
point, never an attempt, but
Yeah.
there was so much existential questioning. Why on earth am I here? And I'd look at my son, my baby son, who I'm in love with and I'm passionate
Mhm.
about, and I'm in love with my hot wife. And, I mean, there's just like, oh my God, I have everything, I have every person in the world to be grateful for. And yet I am dissatisfied with this whole thing.
Yeah.
It was hard. Um, and thankfully he was young enough then that I thought he can't see it yet. He can't
Oh,
see he can't see broken dad.
okay.
It's not gonna register. He won't remember it. So he didn't see the nights that I was collapsed on the floor because I had finished off a handle of Jack myself, you
Wow.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and my poor wife though but here's the thing, she felt at the time that she had no one to talk to about it.
That's sad, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that struggle in that area.
Yeah, well, we had moved from the St. Louis, Missouri area out to Los Angeles. We didn't have family out there. We did have friends. We did have a church community, but she felt there was part of it, and it made me feel like crap. There was part of it that she thought, I can't expose my husband in
Mm,
this struggle he's going through. So
kind of
she had to
expected that.
internalize all that.
Okay.
Um, and she did have about 2 close friends from work that and then it kind of grew to about 4 or 5 girls that they were kind of a nucleus. We called them the aunties. They would come over and babysit for us and
Oh,
help
that's
out with
nice.
Lex. And so a few of them, she felt she was able to say, look, Dallas is really struggling with this stuff. Um, and then we had one really bad night where it was, sorry.
It's okay.
Um, I was ready to be done. And she thankfully was able to proverbially talk me off that ledge. Um, I was just ready to end it all. And so anyway, she called my brother, and who's my best friend in the world, and
Okay.
said, you need to know what's going on because I don't know what to do anymore. And he's a pastor of all things.
Oh, yeah. So
So
she kept this from the family as well to
yeah,
protect you?
nobody knew about it.
Okay. And I
Nobody
assume
knew
your
about
brother
it.
was in St. Louis?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so it was news to him, obviously.
Yeah.
Uh, but the next day I'm in my office, just going through my morning like paperwork, call log, answering voicemails. And she walks in and she hands me a piece of paper and it's got 5 therapists on it. And she says, you don't get to choose not to go. You get to choose which one you go to.
Uh,
And
her.
yeah, no, she's a boss. My wife
Yeah.
she's a boss and she's a strong, amazing, wonderful human. Uh that's just I think she's incredible in so many ways. She's so much stronger than I could have hoped for.
That's
Uh
amazing.
but I mean, the crap I've put her through, Susie. As I'm sure you know, being married yourself.
You know what? She's gonna need all that with 3 boys, trust me.
Yes. Well, and it was like God knew sort of thing.
Absolutely, because they say you don't really get all your resilience till you've gone through shit, so
Yeah.
you have prepped her to be a boy
I,
mom.
that's really all I was doing it for, was to prep her for all of this. So I decided to start going to therapy, and it was at that point I realized, and I was also doing a coaching program at that time too. I'm like, I'm going to solve this because at the heart of who I am a competitive guy. I want to win. I'm this guy who, no matter how many times I fall down, I will pick myself back up. So there's something in me that's I don't know if you know Enneagrams, but I'm an Enneagram 3. I'm an achiever type. When I go and do my okay, you're an 8?
I'm an 8.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know exactly so much about you all of a sudden.
You're like, "Okay."
We can talk about that for no, some of the my business coach, she's an 8. One of my best friends is an 8. My sister's, I'm pretty sure she's an 8. She
Yeah.
says she's a 3, but I'm like, I've seen 8 in
You're
you.
like, "No, no, no."
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about it, but yeah, I
Yeah.
did the thing and I'm
My
an 8.
brother's an 8, my dad's an 8, and I'm 90% sure my
How'd
firstborn's
you
an
end
8.
up a 3?
My mom's an achiever type.
Okay.
She's a competitive achiever type. And even like when I did my strengths finders test, it was futurist, achiever, competition, intellection. I mean, like creative. And I'm like, yeah, everything I am is based on I will win
I
and
will
I will do what it like that's how I feel on the inside.
So, with that, what I wanna ask you with the "I will win" mentality, is it winning or was it finding your purpose?
To me, that
Is
was the
is
win.
that the win?
For me, that was the win. So
Okay,
it's not it's funny, I'm not the most competitive guy with other people. I'm For me, it's never quite good enough. So
okay.
I will find a way to win in my life. I will be the smartest guy I can become. My business is all about helping people be public speakers, working with coaches and consultants to craft their keynote talks, their
Yeah,
sales presentations, 30 plus years experience with a microphone.
okay.
But in my heart, I'm still not good enough for me yet.
Wow,
It's
wow.
weird. It's
Like,
weird.
even today, you kind of feel that way?
When I finish a talk, I always I know if I hit it, I know if I crushed it, I know if there was emotional connection in the room,
Yeah,
because people don't believe this about me. I'm an introvert, and so I need a lot of alone time. I need a
yeah,
lot of quiet time to recharge. People think introversion is shy, and as you know, that's not the
right.
truth. The truth is, it's where do you get your energy? Where do you plug into to refuel? And crowds and people don't give me energy, but as an introvert, I can connect with individuals in a room. So I
Okay.
know when a talk has hit and I feel good, but I'm not 5 minutes done before I think, oh, it's the coulda, shoulda, woulda, right?
Aw,
But 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 it's funny. It's the only place where I'm not hard on myself about it,
okay.
where I'm analytical about it, where I go, okay, oh yeah, I forgot this. I could have swung that back around the next time I do this. And I
Yeah.
think I think that's part of my what made me grow quickly as a stand-up comic
Yeah, I
was
was
I
just
was
gonna say, if you don't have that mentality, if you just are complacent with everything, you're like, "Crushed it on," and you don't reflect,
yeah,
you wouldn't grow and get better.
no, and that's the thing. I only ever want to grow and get better.
That's
Um,
not bad.
no, it's not unless it's to my detriment of
Not feeling your worth.
yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
If my worth is tied to my performance, which is
Yeah,
the big issue for an Enneagram 3, if my worth is tied to my performance, then if I have a bad performance, I'm worth less. Or
yeah,
God forbid I can't perform for a while, or I can't go out and get the talks and do the stuff,
mhm,
then all of a sudden, if that personal
yeah,
value starts going down, I've hamstrung myself into this horrible cycle of
right,
behavior and belief. Um, and so for me, I'll say this again, as a comic, I was able to pull from that performance and go, all right, this joke didn't work. What if I move this punchline to this earlier? I'm going to do this whole bit a little earlier and see if it gets a bigger punch. And then the next show, 2 hours later, I'd move things around.
okay,
So I was able to be really analytical in the way I performed, um, which was great. There was no emotion attached to any
yeah,
of that. But when it came to who I was as a person, I wasn't performing like a dad. I wasn't performing like a husband. I wasn't performing like what I thought I should have been.
okay.
And that took me down this path. So this competitive guy in me, am I talking too much? You want to
No,
talk more?
no,
I feel
sometimes
like
I feel like I talk too much, I'm like,
no,
"I am just gonna, like."
no,
I
this is
like it, I love it. I've not had a guy on my and that's well, this year I have no guys yet, and I love
okay.
this.
Perfect. Let's
Yes,
do it. So, so I'm this competitive guy. I want to be better. I want to achieve. I want to do all of this. So when I started with therapy, I was also coaching at the time with somebody, and I was like, I'm going to learn to figure out all the things inside of me. I mean, I have a bookshelf here of 80 books of self help. I was like, I will do
have you
this
read them
thing.
all?
Yeah, yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I
Uh,
haven't done, but I've
there's
not
two
read them
on
all.
there that just arrived in the last 2 weeks that have not been touched yet,
Okay.
because I'm finishing another one.
What's
But
your favorite?
huh?
What's your favorite?
Oh, so my favorite, the thing that shifted my life about 2 years ago, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
Okay.
And it talks basically that we are your mind is a cybernetic system. It's a computer system. And if you give it, you will get the effects of whatever the programming is. So when we
Okay.
talk about the results we get in our lives and why people struggle in the same cycle over and over, and they're going down this path, they don't want to, it's why they lose the same 20 pounds and
Yeah.
regain it over and over. It's
Oh,
because somewhere in their operating system is a code, I will never be thin, or I am a big person, or I am a this. And so they can strive and strive and strive, but the targeting system will always target them back to the false belief.
yeah. So is
So
that where do you talk to people about this stuff, like
yeah,
fixing their limiting beliefs and all that?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I help. I do it a lot with my speaking clients, but
Mm.
also I work with another guy named Joel Staley who has a fitness program,
Okay.
and I'm his mindset coach for the people in that program.
Nice.
So
Nice.
that book kind of shifted everything. And now in this last year, Bob Proctor of the Proctor Gallagher Institute, he wrote a book called Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. And
Okay.
they tie in perfectly together because the paradigm is the operating system. And I am currently on my 7th reading of that. And I read a portion every day and
Okay.
have an accountability partner that he and I leave each other Marco Polos. Here's
I
what I
love
learned today. Here's what I learned today. Because I'm going to rewrite the code.
that. Okay.
Because again,
Now,
I'm determined to become better.
yeah, no, of course, but you should, right? You
Yeah.
should. It's sad when we don't. When people
Right.
become complacent, that's when it's just not good.
Right.
I love that. So, with that, with you wanting to rewrite the code and focus on that for yourself,
Hmm.
how do you feel it works with you as a dad? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I think parents have a great influence on kind of the programming with our children, but
Yeah.
I still firmly believe they have personality that just is going to do what it does.
Yeah. And my role, I guess, my duty as a father
Mhm.
is to make sure they're ready to take their world,
Okay.
to make sure they are prepared to enter the next phase, the next
Sure.
stage.
Okay.
I remember it was during something happened in 2020. I don't remember. There was something that
I know
occurred.
what happened in
It
2020.
disrupted stuff. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember that fall when my youngest Arrow was getting ready to go to preschool, and
Okay.
he's going, and it's his first time going to school, and he's wearing a mask, and they're behind their plexiglass and stuff. But I
Oh,
remember I got to drop him off because my wife was teaching a yoga class that morning. And as I'm dropping him off, I'm walking in and we get to the sidewalk and he turns to me and he goes, "Daddy, I got it. I'm ready to go." And he gave me a thumbs up. And I just sobbed that he was like, "I'm ready, Dad. I got this."
yeah.
And I had this moment of, I want to have that. My boys are going to go through various stages of manhood. They're going
Mhm.
to go from that little boy into being like a young warrior. They're
Yep.
going to go from being a young warrior into the next phase of adulthood, into being a lover, into being a husband, into being a father. And if
Yeah.
I need to know that I'm preparing them and in helping to walk through that initiation so
Yeah.
that they're not an uninitiated man, so that they know how to best take care of their families, best take care of their spouses, best take care of the world around them, right? I
Yeah.
want them to ultimately be good citizens.
Right. Yeah. I have this one book, Don't Raise Assholes. I'm like, if we can do that.
Oh, I'm guess what? I just added a new. I'm gonna write that one down. That's what I want. I want them to be and we have a thing we do every morning, and I won't share it here, but as a family, as we're sitting around the breakfast table, and either my wife or I every
Yeah.
morning is sitting with them, um, and we have a family creed that we say that
That's
reminds them
nice.
of who they are every
Yeah.
day. Because part of it is, as you know, in training someone, it's spaced repetition, right? So getting them to become that. And what I had to learn, and this goes back to your question, was in my paradigm, I had written a script that somehow I was unlovable unless I performed a certain way.
Oh,
I
wow.
was not quite the person I thought I was because of all the shifts that happened in my 20s. I was on this wrong trajectory, and I repeated that script enough that I
Mm,
finally became unrecognizable to the guy in the mirror.
yeah.
And so I've spent the last couple years recoding my script and getting to the point where now where I am becoming someone different. And what's awesome about it is I'm beginning to see some of the shifts that I've made reflected as a parent. So
Yeah.
when I turned 44 a few months ago, one of the things we do at birthday time is we have a family dinner, and it's Arthur's turn. So he gets to pick what we're having for dinner that night, and we do the thing. Um, and we all go around the table and we say a couple of things we love about Arthur. And it's always funny, watching everybody come up with their stuff. But
Mhm.
at my birthday this year, my boys get me every time.
They
So
always
my birthday
do.
this year, the 13-year-old, he looks at me and he says, "Dad, I love that I see that you're always working on yourself.
Aw,
And I love that you're actually different than who you were last year."
that's amazing at 13 that he can recognize
Yeah.
that.
And he was the one when you brought up the story earlier of we've never been here before, bud.
Yeah,
Um, I I make it very purposeful that that they aren't talking negatively about themselves. And I'll
yeah.
say, "Hey, say something. All right, yeah, you got that wrong. But what was the last time you got this right?" So I'm making sure they're keeping an eye on their script,
Yeah,
their internal script.
right.
I'm making sure my wife and I say the things that we're not speaking to who they are, we're speaking to who we see them becoming.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I think
Parents, did you hear that? That's a
yeah,
great takeaway. That's a great takeaway.
I think we should speak to who we see them becoming
Mhm.
because we are currently coding their operating system. Everything we say.
With that, how do you balance that, you and your wife? I love that so much, but I also feel like there could be a tiny detriment if you don't do it right. How do you do it without implying what you want them to be,
Yeah.
right?
So our high level, our creed is that they help hurting, they look for lonely, they like there's things that we instill in them as far as values.
Okay.
And if when we speak to who they are, we speak to the values of what they have in them. Hey, you're a truth teller, right? So there was no need to lie to us about this. Hey,
Yeah.
you're a person of honor, right? Hey, you're a person who is a they've got shirts right now at their school. Everybody in the school has shirts at the elementary that says "Be a buddy, not a bully."
Oh, nice.
But we say, "Hey, you're a truth teller, right? Was that being who you're supposed to be? Hey,
Yeah.
you're an honest person. Hey, you protect others, right?" There are
So you
things
get
that we
speaking to,
say.
like, core values.
That's it. We're speaking to the core
Okay.
values because their interests are wide and varied, and they shift pretty regularly. There was a
Right.
point my one of my kids wanted to be a ninja because that's what he saw. You know, he doesn't necessarily want to be a ninja now. There's another one.
You're not the parent that's like, "If you wanna be a ninja, you can be a ninja."
Yeah, no, no, no. Here's what I say: be who you're supposed to be.
Mhm.
Be the values that we've trained you to be, and chase your passion.
Yeah.
As long as your passions are aligned with your values.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
just started teaching 12-year-olds. I do some workshops here and there, and to create a value statement
Mm,
because it's so important. And I think that they need to be told that it's okay that that will change.
yeah, yeah.
Reevaluate. That's why they say companies and things should reevaluate this stuff
Oh yeah,
because if you create a certain identity or a value, well, hell, right now, let's talk identity. My girls, and because your kid's right at this age,
yeah,
the girls are going into junior high. So they're
yeah,
wrapping up 6th grade. And I keep telling them, I'm like, you guys, this is one of the best times as an adolescent where you get to like reinvent yourself,
yeah,
like a new identity. And I know some people say, oh, well, a new identity, it's like a negative,
yeah,
but it's not. Like a new identity is just like you said, who do you want to be?
yeah,
Where do you see yourself? Grab that identity. Now let's live like that.
yeah,
And that's what I'm trying to, like, tell the girls, "Hey, you don't have to be this person that you ended up." You know how sometimes you just a few things happen or
We
you
fall
get
into our ruts.
and everybody kind of puts you in that.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
you're that identity and you're
yeah,
stuck. You're like, well, I can't be different now.
right.
And so I keep trying to
We put each other in social
all the
boxes.
time. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
I was having this conversation yesterday with a stylist. We were talking about the girls in this realm. And we both agree. I'm not sure if you feel the same being a guy, but females, when we step into that junior high and we step into that high school, that very first day,
yeah.
everybody, including teachers, kind of give us what they think we are.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
can mold us. It can make you like shrink in. It can make you open up. So for me, that's why I'm really trying to show the girls, like, you're going to walk in head held high. You
Yeah,
are who you are, and people are going to know exactly who you want to be and who
yeah,
you are because of how you present yourself.
yeah,
Is
absolutely.
it the same for boys?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
And what I have noticed what I've noticed with the oldest as he's gone now into junior high and will be going into high school. Oh my gosh, next year.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
I just put that together. That happened in the moment.
Do they play
So
sports?
he does martial arts.
Okay.
So he is currently working on his second degree junior black belt.
Oh my gosh, nice.
So he has a good community there that he's a part
Okay.
of. But in school, watching them gravitate into, for lack of a better word, packs,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
is very intriguing to me. But we had a teacher reach out to us not long ago and said, "Hey, I just wanted to compliment your son." And I was like, "You called to call? All right, give it to me. Hit me
That's
with
the
it."
best
And
parenting success.
right, and she said, "I just want you to know, watching him interact with the other kids, if someone's off and alone, he's pulling them into a group."
That's amazing.
I just went, "It's working. Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. They can choose who they want to be. So my hope is that I instill in them the values that help shape
Yeah,
whoever that person is.
absolutely.
I think that's important. So yeah, you said parents. Did you get that? I'll say it again. Are you
Mhm.
speaking to who they will become, or are you speaking to the problems of the moment?
Yeah,
I think one's proactive and one is reactive, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. What do you see for your boys in the future? Like, I know as parents, we sit around, you're like, "Ooh," have they expressed what they wanna do when they grow up? And do you see that for them? Are you kinda like, "I don't really see you doing that."
Yeah. Um, one right now only wants to the oldest, I'll just tell you,
Mhm.
he wants to be a YouTuber and he wants to have a mansion in Dubai and he wants
Wow.
to have all the shoes. Right now, he's all about the shoes. And if he heard me saying this, thankfully he's at school right now. If he heard me saying this, he'd be like, "Dad, why are you telling everybody that?"
So I have a question
Yeah.
because a lot of people, which even me initially was like, but at the same time, that's not a reality.
Oh, it's a
It's possible.
there are college courses now
Mhm. Right.
on
So how
becoming a
do you
YouTuber.
foster that? Do you foster that? Or are you kinda
I'm
like, put your head into reality, child?"
I think my role is to allow them multiple opportunities to explore options
Yeah.
and see where all the indicators point
Okay.
until they make a decision. So there's going to be
Mhm.
things that they have an affinity toward. There's going to be things that they have a natural predilection of skills, and hopefully they can find that center Venn diagram, right, where it's something they love to do, something they can help others by doing, something they can be paid to do, and
Right.
something they ultimately feel called with all their skills and
Yeah.
passions to be a part of. So my goal is to help them find that center center of the Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Um, the second Arthur, the middle child, I hate calling him middle child, the second child. Um, I take issue with it because of the thing, that people are like, oh well, he's the middle child.
I know, I never understand that.
I don't get it either, but I try not put that label on him when
Yeah.
talking to him. So and we don't call the youngest the baby either. We say third because
Okay.
I was the baby of five,
Okay.
And one of the things that shaped me, just a quick aside before I get
Mhm.
into Arthur's affinities, one of the things that shaped me was I was called the baby of the family forever. Oh, there's our little baby. That my sister would call me that. And it took me a long time entering a room as an adult that I didn't feel like the
Mhm.
youngest in the room.
Okay.
And there were places I would come in where I'm like, I'm on the same level as some of these people,
Yeah.
but I felt like the little brother.
Mm.
And so it took me a while to figure out, oh no, I
Isn't
I,
that
I can step into
crazy?
my expertise and not into my familial role.
Yeah, isn't that insane?
It's
The things
crazy.
you don't think like, quickie side note too, I, do neurolinguistics. So I'm
Okay.
master trained in neurolinguistics. So certain things like how having that conversation with the mind, they say, one of the things I learned in class is when you're talking to little kids or anybody in that matter, you're for one, your mind can't process negatives.
Hmm.
So it doesn't understand don't. It doesn't understand can't. It just can't process that.
Yeah.
So when you say things like you hand a little kid a cup of milk and you're like, don't spill the milk, all your brain hears is spill the milk.
Right.
And you always notice the kid suddenly just trips and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What
Didn't
you
you
should
do what I told you not to do?
Right, right, but the brain wants to make us happy. It'll do
Yeah.
what we ask of it. So what
Yeah.
you should be trained to say is like, "Keep your cup upright,"
Yeah.
or this
Yeah.
or that. So I think those things are so important, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and so the book that we talked about, Psycho-Cybernetics, it deals with that idea of when you say, I hate that I'm fat,
yes,
your brain gets an emotional of hate, anger, upset, and here's the word fat. So it automatically targets I am fat because it doesn't, same thing, it doesn't hear the
mhm,
negative, don't spill the milk. I
yeah,
hate that I'm fat. I don't want to be fat.
mhm,
Negative emotion, negative
yeah,
outcome, you're going to target a negative thing.
and
So
that
how do you
plants
build
an
the
identity in
exactly? And so how do you
so it's
replace
like
that with
yeah,
something you can emotionalize positively and internalize as a message to target in the right direction? And hopefully that's what I'm doing with my kids. And with Arthur, he loves music. He will sit and read history books like on the Titanic, and
really?
he loves reading science books, and he's definitely our thinker of the family. And he has said things like, I want to be a scientist. I'm like, well, buddy, once you get further along and
Yeah,
once you start trying all the various mathematics, because a big part of it is mathematics, we'll see if you like doing that.
yeah,
Um, so I don't know where they're all going to end up, but I believe that they're all going to end up being the person they should be.
yeah,
Whatever they do, right?
yeah.
Um, was it with Mandy, your episode with Mandy, where you talked about what people immediately go in and say, well, what do you do?
Oh, right, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember who, oh,
Yeah.
yes, yes, you're right, that one.
Yeah. So in that episode, the idea that we identify ourselves around what we do, I
Right.
think is detrimental to who we
Mhm,
are. And so my hope is that the boys will know who they are
yep.
and that I'll help walk them through all those stages as long as I'm with them and can help. Um, and that by the time they decide what they want to do, it'll be perfectly aligned with who they are.
Yeah, I think that's great. You're right though, the I am statements. A lot of
Mhm.
people are like, "Oh, I'm a mom." You're like,
Right.
you're not a mom, like, you're a human being that happens to
Right.
be a mother."
Right.
So, yeah,
Right.
we work on that a lot. I do that with my kids as well. It's just reframing or trying to re-grasp what your
Yeah.
actual identity is and how you would
Yeah.
introduce yourself. What the heck? I was just gonna, I can't remember my mind. I just had one thing I
Sorry.
Oh, no, totally fine. Me going off, but, oh, I know what I was gonna tell you really quick. It's probably a terrible mom moment, but I'm gonna own it.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever said literally to my kid's face, "I do not support you." Instantly when I said it, I was like, "Oh my god, what
Yeah.
terrible mom," but now I know why, and I don't feel bad about it,
Oh,
but
yeah.
my oldest son, he's 26 now, he's in the Navy, he's a corpsman, and he's, with the Marines, he's an instructor at the Marine Mountain Warfare Training Center. He's actually home on leave right now, which is nice,
Oh, fun.
but he, was in his 2nd year college at NAU. He always had on his list military, so
Yeah.
it wasn't surprising to me when he's like, "I'm going into the Navy." Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was on his list. Whether he went in as an officer or not, I didn't care. It didn't matter. But he came to me halfway through sophomore year, and it was, I don't even know why he was hesitant, but in either case, he had already withdrew from college, but I didn't know. It was Christmas.
Oh,
Yeah, because we had just signed a lease on his January apartment, and this
yep.
was Christmas break. So whole nother story. But he sits down in my office because I was like, oh my God, why? Granted, Flagstaff's 3 hours away.
Sure.
It wasn't like he needed to catch a flight out. But it was like school was starting in a day or so, and he hadn't left yet. And I'm just like, okay. So he sat in my office one day, and you can tell when the kids are like, they got something to tell you that they're afraid. And he sits down and he's like, I said, son, shouldn't you be like headed up the hill? Well, Mom.
Oh,
and I'm like, okay. I mean, hey, I'll support anything for the most part. I just want to.
Yeah.
But he says, so I think I'm going to join the Navy and I'm going to be a CB. I'm like, absolutely not. I do not support you. That's not happening. And like I said, it was like, and his face was just like, what the? Because I had never, I mean, you want to like, make $1 million raising ants. I got you. Like, I will support you. I tell my kids, I support you 120. Don't freaking lie to me. You lie to me, shit changes. That's it. That's my thing. You keep the trust. I got you. But so when I said that, he was, and then me seeing his face, I'm like, oh my God. But now I know why. He was so much better than that. It wasn't that he couldn't do military. A CB, that's somebody that goes and builds. Granted, there's people and we need it. Yeah. But my son, I looked at him and I'm like, absolutely not. You want construction, grandpa has a business. He's been ready to hand it off. Take it. You are not going into the military where somebody gets to control you, tell you what to do, pay you crap dollars, put you in, some crazy war zone to build some shit building. No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And he was just like, oh my God. But with that, he went, took his ASVAB and saw he tested so high, they offered nuke school and other things to him. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, I think that's crucial because you know that we're guiding their potential, right?
Right.
And sometimes their limited experience limits their idea of their potentiality. So if we can say, let's think a little higher. Just go. It's not that I don't support military. Nicer. Well,
my delivery sucked.
If you want to do a part 2 conversation where we talk about all of my failures as a father, we can have that. Yes. I'm sure there could be a blooper reel that would go for hours. You could TikTok for millions and millions of views, all the screw ups I've had as a dad.
No lie. Oh my gosh. Don't you wonder, well, maybe not, you'll get there. So for me, I wonder now that I have 28, 26, and 24, the olders, they're out. I sometimes wonder, I'm like, when they hear stuff or they're, because I'll hear kids, I'll be out and I'll hear like a 30-year-old, like, oh my God, my mom is so amazing. She taught me these things or grandma's recipe, all that stuff. I'm like, what do the kids say? They're not going to tell us. Like, what do they say? I want to I just want to know if I'm not around or when I die, what are they saying about me?
Well, my wife and I have laid in bed and cracked up about an interaction with one of our parents. And we're like, oh my gosh, they're so crazy. And then we'll go off and then I would look at her, she would look at me and go, they're going to talk about us this way. Hopefully they also go, but dad tried his best. Yeah. Mom was doing what she could. And I think the idea, one of the shifts that happened for me was someone made a comment to me once of like when we were talking about with my son, 13-year-old, I've never been 13 before. And I'm like, well, I've never parented a 13-year-old before. Yeah. Somebody also mentioned to me one time, it's really intriguing because when I was a kid and I was growing up, I didn't realize that my parents were growing up at the same time. And the fact that my parents, even though I was the youngest of 5 children, they had never had a Dallas before. They had never had a 5th child before. They had never been 35 and 37 before. Like they were still growing into who they were as individuals. So my hope is that that every parent-child relationship could give each other the grace to figure it out together and
Yeah.
to stay humble through the process. I do not have it figured out,
Oh
and
gosh,
I'm
sure.
only going to figure it out by experimenting on my kids. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's an experiment,
Yeah.
and if there's going to be a lot of variables, hormones and age and this and that. If I can keep one thing constant, the values.
Yeah, I think that's total key for
The
sure.
values and love. Like, if
Mhm.
they feel my unconditional love,
Yeah,
if I'm the one they run to for a hug or a kiss for as long as I'll take it,
yeah,
you can come do that as long as you want, son.
yeah. And you know what? On the adult side, that's still the same. I mean, obviously the kids aren't
Yeah.
running and hugging and kissing me now, but
Yeah.
anytime they have a life decision or something big or a thought or a plan, whether it's an investment, buying something, getting a
Yeah.
home, a car, they call me.
Yeah. That's
They
great.
always call me.
Then
And
it
so,
means
I
you
mean, you
did
kind of
well.
what's that?
It means you did well.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes I look at them and I'm like, "I don't really know who raised you because I was 20 when I started. I know what the
Right.
hell I was doing." I had 3 kids under 25,
Wow.
and then I didn't have the twins till I was 37, so
Good for you.
big
That
gap.
is quite the distance between the
Yeah,
2.
yeah, so between the girls, so 28 is my oldest, and the littles is 17 years. Mercedes was 17
Okay.
when the girls were born, and my youngest, my middle, he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
12. He was 12.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, no, I think I did well. My daughters, you know, I don't try to base success on money and things.
Sure.
I for me, I'm very successful as a parent because I feel like my kids are very happy where they're at. They're
Good.
making good choices and they're happy. Even though, the one in the military, not my favorite. I mean,
Yeah.
my other son is a cop. What the hell? Like, why?
I
Can't you
I'm
guys just pick
I
none?
am proud of both of your young men for
Gray
those
hairs? Oh,
decisions.
thank you.
Yeah, no, that's two,
He's a
more
mom,
unenviable positions could not be mentioned, but they did it, and they're thriving, which is
and
good.
they're happy. They're like, "I love my job." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
Well,
Get out,
and you know
get
what
out.
it goes back to? Um, it goes back to the thing I said about Arrow when I dropped him off for preschool,
Mm,
and he gave me the thumbs up and he said, "I'm ready, daddy."
yeah, yeah. If
That's what you want. You want them to look at you and say, "Mom,
absolutely.
I'm ready for this next phase."
And there's if you get bored, my episode with Toby is he's my youngest son. He's the
Okay.
police officer. I think we did it while he was barely in the field because he's
Okay.
June next month, he'll have been in the field a year. He graduated ASU first, did the academy,
All
and
right.
so he's been in a year and a half. But the
Okay.
first 6 or 7 months is, schoolwork, academy
Right.
work.
Right. Right.
He said to me, because I asked him in the podcast, I said, "What can you tell moms that worry?" A lot of us moms, our kids are military, kids are police officers. What can you tell those moms? And basically, the simple gist, he's like, "Look, you raised us, so you know who we are and how we are. I've been trained, and trust me, I don't want to die. So
Mm,
know that I've got my back, so you don't need to worry."
wow.
Because you raised me. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Holy shit."
Yeah. Yeah.
24-year-old, he was 23. 23-year-old just schooled his 45-year, 49-year-old mother. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but from that minute on, I've never worried about either one.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I don't worry. Like
That's
they
awesome.
say, no news is good news. I'm like, didn't hear from them, must be good.
Yeah. Nobody else called, so that's good.
No one's
Maybe they
calling.
didn't call, but no one else called either, so I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, because I really thought that I was going to be like when I knew he was on duty and stuff, I thought I would be very anxious and very like, until like, okay, he's off. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. I'm like, oh shit, yeah. Oh, Cobe's on duty. Nope. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
have
awesome.
that. So I'm so grateful I don't because that would be a long 20 some years for me ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No. Wow. Well, good for
But
you, mom.
yeah, yeah, boy moms are good. I don't know how see, it's hard because you don't have the little, girl to, like, totally wrap you up and steal all your money.
Yeah, no, I have a niece who makes me very glad I don't have a little girl because I'm like, oh, you melt me and you're not even mine. So
I
no,
know.
I'm okay. I don't think I could have handled a little girl.
Ugh,
I
think God
think
gives
for
you
me,
what he knows you need and what you can
yeah,
do.
right. I think that's what it was. I was like, nah, you're gonna be fine throwing the football around. Just focus
Yeah,
on that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Football's fun. I appreciate you. I don't wanna keep you all day. I totally could, but I don't know if people
I
want a
think we could
2-hour
talk for
episode.
hours, but
We can do follow-ups, totally fine with that.
no,
What's
I appreciate you
been
too. Thank you for having me be a part of this.
It was great. We definitely will chat more and hopefully if I'm ever around there or you're back in Phoenix, we can chat. I'd love to meet your wife because 3 boys, you're right, strong, strong woman.
She's pretty awesome. She's pretty awesome.
What is a super, maybe a tidbit, a tip, a piece of advice you can give a parent or a human?
Oh, well, a human. Um,
I
I
mean,
think
maybe you have something to share for the humans to
yeah,
say.
humans. Let's just say this: just be better. No,
I know, right? Don't
um,
be an ass.
anchor yourself to reality and be better. That's it. Uh, um, no, I would say my best piece of advice for a parent is stay humble,
Mm.
be willing to take a knee and say to your kids, "I was wrong."
Oh, for sure.
Um, so stay humble and stay in the place where you see who they're becoming and not necessarily who they are. We talked about that earlier, but I think that's the best piece of advice is when you speak to your child, speak to the person they will become, not to the one who just destroyed the thing or did the thing that
Right.
has got you frustrated. Speak
Yeah.
to the person they will become and stay humble and when you need to reset, reset. There are
Yeah.
times I'll be like, "Hey, boys, daddy's walking out of the room for a couple of minutes." And I walk out and I go reset.
Yeah.
And there are other times my wife squeezes my hand under the table. She's like, "Go reset." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yes, ma'am." But I would say stay humble, be willing to be wrong, and always picture who they're going to become, and be gracious in the fact that you're still learning too.
Mhm. Oh, for sure. Yeah, don't be so
Yeah.
hard on yourself
You
as a
asked
parent.
for one piece of advice, and there I went. I
I
gave
will
four.
take it. That's totally fine. I mean, totally fine. A dad of 3 boys, I'll take anything because 'cause I'm now left with twin girls. I
Yeah,
don't need no.
a lot of tea parties.
I appreciate you.
Yes, I appreciate you too. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to share this with my tribe and my community too, because this was a
Yes,
great discussion.
I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you.